Have you ever pondered the peculiarities of oxygen atoms and their potential to orchestrate a perfect crime? Picture this. A man found lifeless, ensconced in his favorite armchair within a room locked from the inside. His demise? Asphyxiation. Yet, the room was devoid of any signs of struggle or foul play, just an eerie silence, marking the aftermath of an inexplicable event. The initial findings present an enigma wrapped in a puzzle. The room, a sanctuary that turned into a death trap, was sealed from the inside. No signs of forced entry, no hidden compartments, and no secret passages. The man was alone, basking in the familiarity of his surroundings, nestled comfortably in his favorite armchair. And yet there he was, asphyxiated, his life snuffed out in the very air that should have sustained it. The room was sealed, the victim alone, and the cause of death asphyxiation. But how can a man suffocate in a room full of air? Have you ever considered the invisible dance of oxygen atoms around you? Each breath you take, every word you utter, is made possible by a silent ballet of oxygen atoms swirling around us. Under normal circumstances, these atoms move in a random, chaotic dance, bouncing off one another, filling every available space. They are like guests at a party, mingling and moving around the room, ensuring that every corner is filled with a life-sustaining cocktail of oxygen. But what if, in a startling twist, these atoms decided to change their dance? In our locked room mystery, that's exactly what happened. The oxygen atoms in the room started behaving in a peculiar manner. Instead of their usual random movement, they began to move in a specific pattern, like dancers following a choreographed routine. Imagine, if you will, the atoms in the room suddenly forming an invisible river, flowing unerringly towards the windows and doors, leaving the center of the room an oxygen-deprived vacuum. The man, resting comfortably in his favorite armchair, would have been oblivious to this silent, deadly shift in the room's atmosphere. As the oxygen atoms deserted the room, the man would have started to feel lightheaded, perhaps a little dizzy. He may have tried to stand, to call for help, but found his legs wouldn't support him. His voice wouldn't work. With each passing second, the oxygen level in the room dropped, and the man's struggle for breath became more desperate. Finally, with the room devoid of enough oxygen to sustain life, the man would have lost consciousness. His body, starved of oxygen, would have slowly shut down, leaving him lifeless in his favorite armchair. A tragic end to a quiet evening, all because the oxygen atoms decided to change their dance. In a bizarre turn of events, the oxygen atoms betrayed their host and left him gasping for breath. But what could cause such an anomaly? Are you ready for the solution to this peculiar, locked room mystery? Our story revolves around a man, not just any man, but a scientist. A scientist with a vision that challenged the very fabric of reality. He was experimenting with a device that had the audacious ability to manipulate the movement of atoms. Yes, atoms, the very building blocks of our existence. He believed he could control them, direct them, even transport them from one place to another. His device was designed to move oxygen atoms specifically. The potential applications were limitless. Imagine being able to provide oxygen to the deepest parts of the ocean or to astronauts in space without the need for heavy equipment. It seemed like a futuristic dream, but to our scientist, it was a reality within his grasp. However, on that fateful day, things took a dire turn. The device, in all its complexity, malfunctioned. It began moving the oxygen atoms within the room, not from one part of the room to another, but from inside the room to the outside. A silent, invisible chaos ensued. The room was slowly being drained of its oxygen, molecule by molecule, atom by atom. The scientist, deeply engrossed in his work, didn't notice the subtle changes at first. But as the oxygen levels plummeted, he began to feel the effects. Shortness of breath, dizziness, his vision blurring. He tried to correct the anomaly, but the device was beyond his control. The room, locked from the inside, became a sealed death trap. His experiments, his dreams, they had turned against him. The very atoms he sought to control had taken his life. In a cruel twist of fate, the scientist was killed by his own creation. It was a locked room mystery indeed, but the culprit was not a person skulking in the shadows, but a rogue oxygen atom, a microscopic killer, invisible and deadly. In a cruel twist of fate, the scientist was killed by his own creation. A locked room mystery indeed, but one where the culprit was not a person, but a rogue oxygen atom.